in common. And it's very interesting the camaraderie that we physicians have up here, not only on the Republican side, but made friends with physicians who are Democrats. And I really want to point out, I'm going to talk about something just briefly before I get to the main reason why I'm here. Something that is really may be a little departure from what you might expect. Both sides of the aisle agree on most of what this issue is about, health care reform. We agree we need to do away with the so-called pre-existing illnesses. We agree there should be portability. We agree there should be affordability. We agree on the laudable goals of health care reform. We all agree we need it. And anytime you hear that the Republicans are a party of no, please understand that just because we can't get our word out as well as the majority doesn't mean that we are not just as anxious to see health care reform as anybody else. Where we depart is on the idea of a single-payer option. Now, on the surface it sounds great. It's just an option. We Americans like to have options. We like to have choices. But I was reading just today that now that GM has been taken over by our government and the debt load is removed, that Ford is very concerned about how they're dealing with their debt and competing with General Motors. And I think that's a real good example of what a single-payer option would be like. Understand, we already have a single-payer system, a government-run health system, and that's Medicare and Medicaid. And we've had those for about 44 years. And when our president says, well, if you like what you have, you can keep it, I really don't agree with that under this single-payer option system. And here's why. We all gripe about the fact that our insurance costs, our health insurance costs, seem to go up every year significantly, far faster than inflation. But you need to understand why that happens. It's not because there's a lack of competition. And don't get me wrong, I'm no big defender of insurance companies. There needs to be reform there too. But it's not because there's lack of competition. We're up against archaic insurance laws, private insurance, and we who pay the premiums are having to make up the difference when it comes to Medicare and Medicaid. It's a well-known fact among physicians out there practicing. Dr. Burgess and I well understand this. If you get too high of a percentage of Medicare or Medicaid patients in your practice, you will go out of business. No, I don't mean you can't buy a new car every year. I'm saying you will go out of business. This is a fact. This is not about physicians being wealthy or even well-to-do. This is about physicians being able to provide the kind of health care that they need to provide. Well, if you take that system that we have today, which is much smaller than what the President and the Democrats proposed, and you enlarge that, then you're going to see a tremendous burden placed on your insurance premiums as it enlarges to the point that the CBO has already calculated there'd be a tremendous rush, really a push, if you will, of employers pushing their employees towards a single-payer system because they will make a business decision that their premiums are going to go up drastically and they're better off paying a tax and sending their employees packing into this single-payer system. So again, when someone says you get to keep what you have, I think you really have to examine it. So what we end up with is an ever-growing single-payer system that is being subsidized by the remaining private insurance, and then we run into budgets. We run into budget ceilings. And what happens when we do that? We have to find ways, of course, to pay the bills. Every government who has done this has resorted to the same thing, and that is rationing. Long lines, certain drugs not being available, research collapsing, and we have data to prove this. The cancer survival rates of prostate and breast cancer today, startling difference between the United States and the United Kingdom. I'm told the United Kingdom did away with routine mammograms, which has been really the main thing that's made a difference here, because they couldn't afford it. There's already a commission set up, a health effectiveness comparative commission set up in previous legislation, prepared to begin making those decisions. So again, in conclusion on this matter, make no mistake about it, a government run option is a government-run system, and there's no way around that fact. Now, Senator McGovern is alleged to have said when he got out of the Senate and finished running for the presidency and so forth, and went into private business, that once in business, if he had had any understanding about the impact of the laws that he helped pass in the Senate on private business, he would have thought much different. As a matter of fact, though he was really the marquee liberal back in the 70s, he has come out against the card check program. So that gives you an idea of how his worldview has changed on this matter. I hope that's not a bomb alarm or something like that. Okay. And so, when you think about it, we as representatives of you, the constituents, we should be in a position to understand what your day-to-day life is being impacted by our decisions. And too often, Congress carves out for itself special deals that they don't themselves have to live by the very rules and the very laws that are foisted upon you. If you look inside these bills, and Congressman Burgess pointed out very clearly, it's very difficult to find details on these bills coming out of the Democrat side from these committees. But one thing we understand is it seems in all versions that Congress will be well implanted into the federal employment benefits program, that is private insurance exchange, for at least 5 years, if perhaps not longer. And so, in response to that, I and many of my colleagues, including Dr. Burgess, placed a resolution we hope to vote on, which says very simply, and I'm paraphrasing this, that if you vote for a single-payer option, a government-run option, that you will choose to opt in to the government-run system yourself. So let me be clear about that. If you, as a congressman, vote for the government-run option, that you commit to being it yourself. And the bloggers have picked up on this. I gave a speech on the floor, I believe it was Friday or Thursday on this, getting a lot of hits on YouTube on that speech. People are very excited about this, and since we can't really communicate directly with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle because they won't talk to us about this, they won't even let us know what's going on, all we know about is what we hear in the media. This is a way to stimulate the electorate out there to contact their representatives and ask them the same question. Will you be willing to sign on to this resolution? Will you be willing to support a resolution that says, if you support a government-run option for me, which is in essence a government-run healthcare system, will you be in it yourself? So I would ask you to spread the word. I know we have media here, and let people know in your areas, your districts, what have you, about this House Resolution 615. It's getting a lot of play up here. Bloggers picked up by the Times-Picayune. Newt Gingrich has it on his website, a number of sites. With that, I'll turn over